This video is my tribute to arguably the best bodybuilder of all time. Incredible 8 times Mr. Olympia, Lee Haney. Now, few would argue that maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger winning 7 Olympia titles in 1970s, or later Ronnie Coleman winning 8 Olympia titles deserved that title, but I'm going to state the fact. Lee Haney retired at the early age of 31 with 8 Mr. Olympia titles. He decided to retire. Had he competed for a few more years, I'm sure he would have a record that would never be broken. Look at Dexter Jackson entering his last Mr. Olympia this year at the age of 50. So just imagine that longevity for Lee Haney, how many titles he would have won. But I'm going to state some interesting facts. I came to the United States in 1987. I've seen Lee Haney in the pictures, in some videos, but first time I experienced him live on the stage, 1988 in Los Angeles. So I'm gonna bring that videotape and I'm gonna have you see it. So here it is, Lee Haney. After winning 4 Mr. Olympia titles, 84, 85, 86, 87, coming with a great lineup. Rich Gaspari, who was second twice in a row, coming to beat him. Lee Labrada, Barry DeMay, Gary Stridham, Brian Buchanan, Mike Wynn. There was a tough lineup. And I'm going to tell you, because I was a kid watching this show, first time Mr. Olympia, Lee Haney won that contest. The moment he turned towards the judges and the audience, he was so dominant. You can see him here in the comparisons. But I'm going to tell you, video doesn't do him justice. Pictures look great, but really you have to experience him live. Now this is 1988, his 5th Mr. Olympia, clearly dominant, super strong. He was ahead of his time. The thickness that he displayed in the time, and that muscle maturity with the still prominent aesthetics. We talk about classic bodybuilding, and he was like overpowering everybody at the 242, 245 stage weight, but he was still incredibly aesthetic. So, after 1988, he dominated in 1989, and 1990, there was the first and only drug-tested Mr. Olympia. So in the 1990, if people don't know, maybe 5 people have failed a drug test. Barry DeMay, Mohammed Benaziza, there was J.J. Marsh and Vince Comerford and so on. But in 1990, few guys emerged as a possible threat. Few would argue maybe Lee Labrada or Sean Ray could take Lee Haney at the time, and you can see this video footage as well. So in 1990 was this breakout year that for the first time Lee Haney was vulnerable. Maybe he was beatable. So coming into 1991 Mr. Olympia, I was honored and blessed to be there at that show. And I watched everything unfolding right in front of me. At the press conference already, in the 1991 Olympia, Sean Ray was talking very confidently. He wants to take everything from Lee Haney, his title, his house, his car, his everything. Very cocky. And Lee Labrada being second earlier, in the year before, he believed he had a chance. Dorian Yates, Shadow, Wonder from England, huge Night of the Champions winner, great threat. Vince Taylor. There was really so many guys in 1991 that could possibly, take the title. Lee Haney was super confident, smiling, didn't say much until this interview that I'm going to share with you.
So I gotta have some action. If I just sit around and thought only about training for a Mr. Olympia contest, I would go crazy. So I like being competitive in business, in my social life, and everything that I do. I like doing what they say can't be done. But there's a lot of guys chasing me. The sport of bodybuilding has grown tremendously. and so have the number of competitors. So yes, I do have a lot of added competition that Arnold didn't have to face during this era. But even if you were to put Arnold in this era, he would still reign supreme next to Lee Haney.
You can see the confidence. He did not care who comes, who's going to be his competition. He knew he was going to win. And why? Because he showed up at his absolute best. And I'm going to tell you, that year he signed a contract with Muscle Development. Being that Mr. Olympia is Joe Weider contest, and many people say sponsorship-wise that was a wrong move. He's not going to be favored. He's going to lose the title. You know, there are so many guys gunning for this title, and he might lose it. So backstage, we were pumping up Lila Brada, Dorian, Sean. You know, energy was there. You know, there was commotion, noise, and everybody was looking at the Lee Haney. He was just on the side talking to muscle development people until there was 10 minutes before the stage, and they called it 10 minutes. Lee Haney talked for a few more seconds and then excused himself. Walked to the first mirror, took off his jacket, and I swear to God, temperature got frozen. The noise was gone. Everybody was just shocked. Lila Brada sit down on the chair. You know, Sean Ray's jaw dropped. Dorian, for the first time, I actually saw him nervous. You know, he's a very confident man, but you can just sense the body language, facial expressions. This show was over before it even started. So here, I'm going to show you what he looked like in the 1991 Mr. Olympia. And you can see just how dominant Lee Haney really was. He was ahead of his time, and I'm going to say boldly, if he continued to compete, I'm sure he would have won 1992 Mr. Olympia in Helsinki. I'm positive. And then he would sense a great threat from 1993 newcomers like Kevin Leveroni, Flex Wheeler, Dorian Yates being a threat. And I'm sure that Lee Haney, if he had a reason to put more size or to do whatever, he would improve just like he improved for 1991. So I'm going to leave you with a few more video footages from Lee Haney's dominance in his era. And I'm going to conclude this. For me, Lee Haney earned his nickname Totally Awesome. And to me, in my book, he is the greatest bodybuilder of all time. I would also want to mention Lee Haney's competitive record for many of you that don't know that. Lee Haney was born in 1959, so when he started competing in 1978, he was still a teenager. So 1978 and 79, he entered AAU Mr. America. He won both of those shows. In 1982, he switched federation and he went to the NPC, immediately entered Junior Nationals and won heavyweight and overall Junior Nationals title. He went to the Nationals as a next step and also won a heavyweight and overall that year. So United States of America sent him to the World Championship, which he won representing America, and he won heavyweight title. 1983, he turned professional, and this is the only year that Lee Haney actually lost as a professional. 3 times he placed third, including 1983 Mr. Olympia. Twice he was second, and 2 times he won in 1983. But after 83, from 84 until he retired in 1991, he never lost the contest. He never lost Mr. Olympia, and he also won Grand Prix shows in Europe. So Lee Haney's incredible record was standing alone for many, many years, and to me, once again, he is the greatest IFBB champion of all time.